All right, let's jump into this deep dive. Today, it's all about the 1976 sci-fi film Logan's Run. You guys sent in some seriously cool stuff, and I'm pretty pumped to dig into it.
Yeah, it's a classic.
It is. It is. So the basic premise, I mean, I'm sure you're all familiar with it, but just to set the stage, it's this like seemingly perfect future, right? Like everything's all shiny and happy, except, there's a catch.
Always a catch.
There's a pretty big one. You only get to live till you're 30.
Yeah, no kidding. That's a hard deadline.
Makes those birthday candles suddenly seem a lot more menacing, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you're not exactly thrilled about that whole turning 30 and poof you're gone thing,
Yeah.
well, you've got these guys called Sandmen who will make sure you stick to the schedule.
Yeah, not the bedtime story kind either.
No, not exactly. So from what I'm seeing in the material you all sent in, it seems like a lot of you are really interested in the deeper themes of the film, right? Like it's
Yeah.
not just about the action and the cool visuals.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, on the surface, you've got this thrilling story about survival and escape, but underneath it all, Logan's Run is really grappling with some pretty big questions about societal control and the very nature of freedom.
Okay, so let's break that down a bit. What specifically are the sources saying about how this so-called perfect society actually works? How do they keep everybody in line?
Well, it seems like they've got this whole system built on fear
Yeah.
and these elaborate rituals that are designed to kind of mask the true nature of things.
Right. It's like on the surface it's all like renewal and rebirth, but underneath it's well, it's not exactly a happy ending for everybody involved.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
The film does a brilliant job of using visuals to kind of underscore that tension.
Mm.
You've got this stark contrast between the sleek, sterile environment of the city and then the chaotic natural world that exists outside. It's almost as if the city itself is this gilded cage, offering comfort and pleasure, but at the cost of true freedom.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it's like they're trading freedom for safety and security, but it's a pretty high price to pay.
Exactly. And it raises the question of what are we willing to sacrifice in the pursuit of comfort and security? And are those sacrifices ultimately worth it?
Right. And speaking of sacrificing, let's talk about the carousel ceremony. I mean, that's got to be one of the most visually striking and disturbing scenes in the whole film.
Yeah.
It's presented as this beautiful spectacle of rebirth, but it's actually a public execution.
Right. Yeah, and what's even more unsettling is the reaction of the people participating in the ceremony. They're cheering, celebrating, as their friends and family members are seemingly renewed.
Hmm.
But the film is very cleverly using this juxtaposition to make us question our own assumptions about what a perfect society might look like.
Yeah.
What if those utopian ideals are actually built on a foundation of blind faith and a fear of the unknown?
It's almost like they've been conditioned to accept death as this natural part of life. But it's not just a natural death. It's controlled, it's enforced, it's sanitized,
Yeah.
exactly. And it's creepy how they're all just kind of going along with it.
Yeah, and that's where I think the film really starts to get under your skin.
Hmm.
It's not just a mindless action flick.
Right.
It's making you confront these uncomfortable truths about human nature and the seductive power of conformity.
And it makes you wonder about the role of the people who are actually enforcing that conformity. Like Logan, who starts out as a Sandman. I mean, he's literally a cog in the machine at the beginning of the film, right?
Absolutely.
Hmm.
But what's so interesting about Logan's character is that he doesn't just blindly follow orders.
Yeah.
He starts to question things.
Yeah.
And a lot of that has to do with his encounter with Jessica Six.
Yeah, Jessica's a real catalyst for change in the film, isn't she? She's like this breath of fresh air, this voice of dissent in this otherwise very controlled society.
Exactly. And her skepticism, her willingness to question the status quo, it really plants a seed of doubt in Logan's mind.
Yeah.
And that seed grows as they embark on this journey of escape.
So it becomes about more than just physical survival, right? They're searching for something more than that.
Oh, definitely. They're searching for truth, for meaning,
Hmm.
for a world beyond the confines of the dome. Their journey really echoes this very fundamental human desire to break free from constraints. Yeah. Even if those constraints seem comfortable or safe.
Right. It's like that age-old struggle between security and freedom. And sometimes you have to risk the security to find the freedom.
Precisely. And that risk, that leap of faith, that's what really propels Logan and Jessica forward.
Yeah.
And it's what ultimately leads them to confront the heart of the film's central question. What does it truly mean to be free?
And that's a question that we're going to keep unpacking as we dive deeper into the material you all sent in. So buckle up, folks. This is going to get good.
Okay, so picking up where we left off, I think it's worth really digging into one of those like impactful scenes in Logan's Run. That moment when Logan and Jessica, they encounter the old man.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, talk about a mind-blowing moment.
Yeah.
It's like their whole world just gets flipped upside down.
It is. It's a powerful illustration of cognitive dissonance.
Yeah.
You know, that psychological discomfort we feel when we're confronted with information that contradicts our deeply held beliefs.
So, like, basically their whole reality is shattered.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And think about it. Logan has dedicated his entire life to upholding this system.
Right.
And suddenly he's face to face with undeniable proof that it's all a lie.
That's got to be tough to process. I mean, it's not just an intellectual challenge either, right? It's got to be like this huge emotional blow.
Oh, absolutely. You can see it in Logan's face. The confusion, the fear, the sense of betrayal. It's a moment that really humanizes him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, makes us empathize with his struggle.
Yeah, and that struggle isn't limited to the fictional world of Logan's Run, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we all experience cognitive dissonance at some point in our lives.
Exactly. I mean,
Yeah.
think about it. Whether it's clinging to political beliefs in the face of contradictory evidence or staying in a relationship that's clearly not working, we humans have this tendency to resist information that challenges our established worldview.
It's like we'd rather just stick with what we know, even if it's not actually true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's comfortable, it's familiar,
Yeah.
and Logan's Run does this really clever thing where it uses that very human tendency to highlight the insidious nature of societal control.
So it's like they're manipulating people's fear of the unknown to keep them in line.
Exactly. And by offering this elusive promise of sanctuary, they create a safety valve for dissent. You know, people are so focused on reaching this mythical place that they don't stop to question the system itself.
It's a brilliant tactic of control.
Really? Yeah. And unfortunately, it's one that's all too familiar in human history.
It makes you think about all the ways we're being manipulated in our own lives, doesn't it?
It does. And I think that's one of the things that makes science fiction so compelling. It allows us to explore these complex ideas in a safe space. You know, we can examine these uncomfortable truths without feeling like we're directly threatened.
It's like holding up a mirror to society, but in a way that's entertaining and engaging.
Exactly. And Logan's Run does that masterfully.
Mm.
But going back to Logan's journey for a second, I think it's important to note that it's not just about physical escape.
Right. He's got to escape from the mental prison as well.
Exactly. He has to unlearn years of conditioning,
Mm-hmm.
shed those ingrained beliefs that have kept him trapped within the system.
It's like he's deprogramming himself.
Exactly.
Mm.
And that process is essential for his transformation. You know,
Yeah.
it's only by confronting the truth, no matter how painful, that he can truly embrace freedom.
And that's where Jessica comes in, right? I mean, she's the one who really pushes him to see the world differently.
Absolutely. She represents this spirit of rebellion, of independent thought. You know, she's never fully bought into the system. And her unwavering skepticism, it forces Logan to question everything he thought he knew.
It's like she's this walking embodiment of critical thinking.
Exactly.
Hmm.
And her influence is crucial. I mean, she embodies the idea that critical thinking isn't just about challenging authority.
Yeah.
It's also about embracing curiosity, about seeking out different perspectives, about being willing to change your mind when presented with new information.
So she's like the ultimate role model for anyone who wants to break free from the matrix.
I think that's a fair assessment.
Yeah.
And you know, speaking of challenging authority, let's talk about the role of the Sandmen for a moment.
Okay, yeah, the guys who are tasked with eliminating anyone who tries to escape the system.
Exactly. But as we see with Logan, even those who enforce oppressive systems can have a change of heart.
So it's not just about the people at the top, it's about those who are carrying out their orders.
Exactly. Their very existence is a reminder that systems of control rely on human complicity. You know, it's not just about the masterminds.
Yeah.
It's about those who willingly participate, who enforce the rules, who turn a blind eye to injustice.
It's a sobering thought, isn't it? I mean, it makes you question your own role within the systems that shape your life.
It does. It forces you to ask yourself, am I a passive participant? A
Yeah.
silent observer? Or am I actively challenging the status quo, advocating for change, working towards a more just and equitable world?
That's a lot of responsibility.
It is, but it's also incredibly empowering.
Yeah.
We have the ability to choose how we participate in the systems that shape our lives.
And that choice matters.
It does, and that's the kind of self-reflection that great science fiction can inspire.
Yeah.
It's not just about escapism.
Right.
It's about holding up a mirror to our own society, challenging us to examine our own beliefs, our own behaviors, and our own role in perpetuating or dismantling systems of oppression.
So it's not just about watching a movie, it's about using that movie as a springboard for deeper reflection and
Yeah.
hopefully for action.
Exactly, and I think that's one of the things that makes Logan's Run so timeless. It's not just a product of its time. It speaks to universal human anxieties and aspirations.
It's like a blueprint for understanding the human condition.
I like that, a blueprint. And speaking of blueprints, one of the sources you sent over made this really interesting connection between the film's themes and some of the philosophical concepts we've been discussing. It pointed out that the pursuit of sanctuary in Logan's Run can be seen as a metaphor for the human search for utopia.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah,
So like that perfect society that we're all striving for.
exactly. And Logan's Run, like many dystopian narratives, warns us about the dangers of blindly pursuing such ideals.
Because those utopian visions often come at a cost, right? I mean, individual freedom, diversity of thought, even basic human rights can be sacrificed in the name of achieving some idealized state of perfection.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And Logan's Run suggests that true utopia lies not in achieving some static state of perfection, but in embracing the messy, imperfect, ever-evolving nature of human society.
So it's not about reaching some end goal. It's about the journey.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that progress requires constant vigilance, critical thinking, and a willingness to challenge the status quo.
And a willingness to make mistakes, to learn and grow from our failures.
Absolutely. I mean, that's how we evolve both individually and as a society.
So it's not about being perfect. It's about being willing to constantly strive for improvement.
Exactly. And that's what makes Logan's Run such a thought-provoking and ultimately hopeful film.
Yeah.
It doesn't offer easy answers, but it does offer us a framework for understanding the challenges and the possibilities of creating a better future.
And speaking of possibilities, let's shift gears for a moment and talk about the film's visual style. I mean, it's such a fascinating blend of 70s aesthetics and futuristic elements. It creates this world that's both familiar and strangely alien.
And the sources you provided, they mentioned how the film uses contrasting visuals to underscore its thematic concerns.
Right, like the sleek, sterile environment of the city compared to the lush, overgrown world outside the dome. It's a visual representation of the tension between control and freedom, between artifice and nature.
And even within the city itself, there's this sense of artificiality. Like this carefully curated facade that hides a darker reality.
Right, like the costumes, for example, they're often brightly colored, these flowing robes, but they also seem strangely uniform, almost like a societal uniform.
Yeah, it's like they're trying to create this illusion of individuality while simultaneously enforcing conformity.
And it's those subtle visual cues that add another layer of meaning to the film.
Exactly. The filmmakers are constantly using visual language to reinforce the thematic concerns of the film. And I think that's one of the reasons why Logan's Run has remained so visually striking and influential even decades later.
It's like they're not just creating a world, they're creating a visual argument.
I like that, a visual argument. Yeah. And that argument is still resonating with audiences today.
And it's a testament to the power of thoughtful, intentional design choices.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's not just about pretty pictures.
Yeah.
It's about using those visuals to enhance the storytelling, to deepen our understanding of the characters and the world they inhabit.
So it's not just style over substance, it's style in service of substance.
Exactly. And that's what elevates Logan's Run from a mere sci-fi action flick to a thought-provoking work of art.
So we've covered a lot of ground here, from cognitive dissonance to utopian ideals to the film's striking visual style. But there's still so much more to unpack, and I'm eager to delve deeper into the nuances of the source material you provided. Are you ready to continue this journey?
Absolutely. Let's move on to the next part of our deep dive and explore those intriguing details and perspectives that you've shared.
So, one thing that really sticks with me from all this is how powerful storytelling can be. It's not just about escaping into another world for a couple hours. It's about exploring ideas and challenging our assumptions, and maybe even seeing the world in a whole new light.
Totally. I mean, Logan's Run is a perfect example of how science fiction can really make you think about society and,
Mm.
big questions about what it means to be human.
One of the sources actually pointed out how Logan's Run reflects the anxieties of the time it was made. Like, the 70s were a pretty wild time, right? Lots of social and political upheaval. People were starting to distrust authority more.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Art
Hmm.
always reflects the time period it comes from,
Right.
even if it's dressed up in a futuristic setting.
So it's like the filmmakers were taking those real anxieties and fears about the future
Uh,
and projecting them onto this crazy world of Logan's Run.
right. And by doing that, they're forcing the audience to deal with those feelings head on.
But it's not just about the 70s, though, right? The film still resonates today because it taps into those universal human fears, like death and the desire for freedom, that search for meaning.
Exactly. Those are themes that never really go away, no matter what time period you're in.
And that's why Logan's Run is still relevant, I think. It's not just a fun action movie, it's a movie that makes you think. And those thoughts stick with you long after you've seen it.
Yeah, it stays with you. It makes you question things.
Speaking of questions, one thing I found really interesting in the sources was the discussion about the ending of the film. It's kind of open-ended, right? Like Logan and Jessica, they go back to the city to try and change things from within, but we don't really know if they'll succeed.
Yeah, that ambiguity is what makes it so powerful. It doesn't give you easy answers or wrap everything up in a neat little bow. It leaves you wondering.
It's almost like the film is throwing the question back at us.
Right.
Like, okay, you've seen what's going on, now what are you going to do about it?
Exactly. It's a call to action in a way, an
Yeah.
invitation to engage with the world and fight for what you believe in.
And it's a reminder that changing things isn't easy. It's messy. It takes time and dedication.
Definitely. It's a process.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. But the important thing is to keep moving forward.
Keep fighting for what's right. One of the sources talked about the power of imagination and how science fiction can actually help shape the future. By imagining different possibilities, we're kind of planting the seeds for them to actually happen.
I love that idea. It's like by envisioning a better world, we're taking the first step towards creating it.
And Logan's Run does offer that hope.
Right.
Even in this super oppressive society, there are people fighting back. There's that spark of resistance.
Exactly. And that's so important to remember. Even when things seem dark and hopeless, there's always that potential for change.
And we have the power to make that change happen.
We do, every single one of us.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Logan's Run, I think it's safe to say that it's way more than just a sci-fi flick.
Oh yeah, it's a cultural touchstone, a philosophical exploration,
Mhm.
and a timeless story about what it means to be human.
It makes us question everything. And it reminds us that we have the power to shape our own future.
It's a powerful message, and one that we should all take to heart.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep running towards that better future.
And keep those imaginations firing. You
Yeah.
never know what amazing things you might create.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep those great sources coming.